Raised by wolves with canine DNA in his blood, having trained more than 24,000 pets, helping you and your fur babies thrive. Live in studio, it's Pet Talk Today with Will Bangura, answering your pet behavior and training questions. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your host and favorite pet behavior expert, Will Bangura.
Good Saturday morning, pet lovers. Hey, thanks for joining us. I'm Will Bangura.
And I'm Jordan Marsteller.
And you're listening to Pet Talk Today on Facebook Live, where we produce this show each and every Saturday morning from 9 to 10 a.m. If you're new to Pet Talk Today, let me talk a little bit about what we do. Here at Pet Talk Today, our focus is to help you with your pet training and behavior issues. Sometimes we do interviews with professionals within the pet community. Today we're going to be taking your calls and we're going to be answering your questions, but we're going to spend a good deal of today's show talking about the 4th of July and fireworks and how that impacts your pets, your dogs, your cats, because, you know, the statistics are 30 to 60% of pets have severe fears, phobias, anxieties when it comes to the 4th of July.
Absolutely.
I mean, we call it Independence Day, and for a lot of dogs, they call it the Great Escape.
The Great Escape. You know, it's interesting that you say 30 to 60% because Maricopa County reported last year that after the 4th of July, they saw between 30 and 60% increase in intakes over the next couple of weeks.
So the statistics are true.
Yeah.
So we're going to be talking about that. How do you keep them safe, number one? But then what can you do to help mitigate that fear, that anxiety?
Right.
To be able to teach them how to be calm, how to relax. So we're going to talk about a couple of things. We're going to be talking about, in the long term, how do you desensitize your pets to fireworks, okay? Now, for some of the people, for some of you that have pets that are anxious and fearful of fireworks on the 4th of July, you may have time. You might be able to do the counter conditioning and desensitization, and your pet might be in a good place. Yeah, go ahead and take it. It looks like we may have a caller online.
Good Saturday morning. Thanks for calling Pet Talk Today. What's your question and what's your location?
My location is Jackson County, West Virginia.
Well, good morning from West Virginia.
And my question, good morning. My question is for dealing with my dog, a Great Pyrenees. He's afraid of gunfire.
Mm-hmm.
He's not afraid of anything else like thunder. He actually goes out and chases after it, trying to run it off. But he's afraid of gunfire, and we have a small firing range that we do target practice here.
Well, we're going to be talking, and here's the thing, and I want to say this to everybody that is listening and watching. Any kind of sound phobia, any kind of fear of any kind of sound, when we begin the process a little bit later in the show, we're going to talk about how do you desensitize the dog to fireworks. The same steps, the same principles, the same protocol you would do for gunshot fears and phobias. If you've got a dog that's afraid of gunfire, what we're going to be explaining a little bit later on in the show, you're going to do the same thing, only you're going to do that with recorded sounds of gunfire.
Exactly. It's literally the exact same process. Instead of playing thunderstorms, you'll play gunfire. So basically, so that we don't start getting into all of that content right now, if you stick around, we will be answering that question in thorough detail at the end of this show.
Yeah. All right. So Again, if you've got questions about fireworks, if you've got question about noise and sound phobias, don't post your question because we're going to be talking all about that. Okay. But we wanted to also set aside some time to be able to answer your questions, take your calls for other topics. We're probably going to begin to talk about fireworks, I don't know, and maybe at the half hour mark, perhaps.
That sounds about right.
Give ourselves a half hour to talk about that. So if you've got a question about your dog, your puppy, your cat's behavior, training issues, you can go ahead and type your question in the comment section. Do us a favor. Hit that like button right now and go ahead and hit that share button because we want to make sure that as many people that have dogs and cats that have fears and anxieties on the 4th of July with fireworks, we've got some things that are really going to help. And the advice and the information that we're giving is extremely valuable.
Absolutely.
Extremely valuable. You know, one of the things is that, you know, we talked about the Great Escape.
Yeah.
You know, for about 20% of dogs, it's severe.
Oh, absolutely.
So severe that they will hurt themselves. They will jump through a glass window.
I've seen it.
To try to escape the sounds.
They will try and fit themselves in spaces that just do not work for them when they're trying to break out of things. Like, you know, those cameras.
Looks like we have another caller.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for calling Pet Talk today. State your question and your location. How can we help you this morning?
Hi, Keith Davison Mesa. I have a question about how to get my puppy, 7-month-old puppy, to be a little more gentle when playing with other dogs.
Absolutely. I will let Jordan take that one.
So now, how old is this dog?
So she's 7 months old, Irish Terrier.
Okay.
And I've taken her one day a week for half day over to an indoor puppy play place.
Yeah.
Where they have but she's just too rough.
Right.
They ended up putting her in with the big dogs because she likes to play. It's not biting, but she just immediately body slams and chases. So I'm trying to figure out how I might get her to play a little more gently.
Right. Well, okay, the first thing that we need to do here is you need to go ahead and start teaching your dog the art of calm. What this means is I want you to start working on either A, a place command, which we've talked about in detail in the past, or B, a good down command with your dog. Either one will be fine. And I want you to start making your dog stay in this position for many minutes in a row, up to an hour. Every day, and you're just rewarding your dog as they are being calm and relaxed. Once they start getting really good at staying in that down and remaining calm, then you're going to introduce your dog to those external stimuli of other dogs. And now the way that works is in the beginning, you may actually have to be 100, 200 feet away from the other dogs. And now we're putting our dog in the down. We're teaching our dog to remain calm, that other dogs don't have to be this extremely exciting thing, this big event, and we're getting closer and closer and closer to the stimuli of the other dogs. Now, when we've gotten to the point where your dog is nice and calm around the other dogs, simultaneously while you're working on that, and as you're allowing your dog to play with other dogs, whenever that roughhouse starts, you immediately need to redirect the dog. Immediately. Okay. Intervene with the play, give the dog a down command, reward, and teach the dog to stay quiet and stay relaxed. All right. Then, once you've done that over and over and over, and we've redirected and rewarded for that calm behavior, you should start seeing that change in your dog. All right. So make sure we are teaching our dog the art of calm. Does that make sense?
Great advice. Perfect. Awesome. I love the show.
Awesome. Thanks for calling in.
I want to I want to say just one other thing, and that is that a lot of times we can begin to capture calm behavior.
Absolutely. I did forget to say that.
And, you know, dogs go from excitable to calm many times throughout the day. You know, they lay down on their own many times a day. So one of the things that you can begin to do is anytime your dog goes from a more excitable state to a calmer state, you can begin to label that behavior and reward it with a high value food reward. Okay. And if you do that over and over enough, then you can kind of reverse that process and ask for that behavior. So anytime your dog goes from a more excitable state to a calmer state, I might say relax and give a food reward. And start making the association that when there is that calm behavior that your dog offers, that you're going to pair that association with the word relax and very quickly give a high value food reward. And eventually you should be able to say relax and the light bulb goes on
absolutely
in your dog's head. So
absolutely.
I just wanted to make sure that I brought that up.
Yeah, and so we have a couple of questions in our chat, but I hope that answered your question, and I hope you have a fantastic day. Thanks for watching the show.
Appreciate it.
It did. Thanks, guys. Bye.
So we actually have a question from Janice. I hope I'm pronouncing that right. She says that she has a coonhound retriever mix. Interestingly enough, about a coonhound.
Well, it was a bloodhound.
Well, exactly.
Did anybody watch the Westminster?
Yeah, the Westminster dog show.
Yeah.
Best in show was Trumpet,
the bloodhound. First time a bloodhound won best in
ever.
show.
First time ever. But anyway, so Janice, she has a question. Her coonhound retriever mix shakes, starts to breathe heavy. His eyes sort of pop out. What's the best way to relieve these reactions? Well, the first things first. I'm going to go ahead and say, when your dog is shaking like that, heavy panting, drooling, trembling, eyes wide, and he looks like he's just terrified of whatever that stimuli is, that is clinically, that's signs of a pretty severe panic attack that your dog is going through. It is an extreme state of anxiety. So extreme, in fact, that this type of response immediately leads me to say that you need to get in contact with a behavior consultant and start discussing the addition of some sort of psychopharmaceutical, potentially for this dog, because that is a very severe response. So I'd have to know what are the stimuli in order to answer that question.
Now the thing is, okay, because a lot of times, right, you start seeing medication.
Yeah.
And especially you got that word psycho.
Yeah.
Pharmaceuticals. Okay. Yeah. Psychotropic medications. People get nervous.
Yeah.
They get worried about it. Here's the thing. Not every dog needs medication. Medication is not just a silver bullet that everything's going to get better.
Right.
But when we've got pets that are so severe, what happens is they are in this emotional state of fight or flight.
Yeah.
The frontal cortex, what handles the thinking part.
Executive functioning,
okay? Doing something, thinking about a behavior to do.
Complex thoughts, rational thoughts, future planning, decision making.
That
all of this occurs
shuts down.
It's gone.
And if it's so severe, it's almost impossible for learning to take place.
And the reason why is because, so put it like this, right? Our brain, just like your car, can only have one driver at a time. And when cortisol, or the stress hormone, starts firing off in our brain, activating that fight or flight response, what occurs is the frontal cortex shuts off and the amygdala, which is where emotions like fear, anger, this is where like muscle memory is really what your brain is working on. So it's only going to act on what it has done every time in the past. So if your dog is used to being scared, fearful, upset, aggressive, whatever, insert negative emotion, when fight or flight kicks on and muscle memory takes over as the driver, he's going to be like, well, this is how I normally am, so this is what I need to do. That's why we do the training the way we do.
And not every dog needs medication.
Absolutely not.
Okay?
Yeah.
But there are some dogs that are so severe that we can't do the behavior modification unless we can take some of that edge off. And those dogs that are so severe, first of all, we know science, research, okay? And we're talking in peer-reviewed journals. We're talking research studies that have been duplicated, clearly show that dogs that have high levels of fear and anxiety, dogs that have high levels of aggression, have low levels of the neurotransmitter serotonin. Okay? We're not talking about making your dog a zombie. We would
absolutely
never recommend those type of medications.
And in the event that we do recommend medications that may cause sedation, the first thing that I tell my clients whenever I recommend that type of med, I need you to monitor your dog. And if they are so heavily sedated that they're just zonked all day long, I need to know, because we do not want your dog to be like that. Fixing your dog's emotional state is very different than just sedating them and knocking them out.
Yeah, because again, if they're sedated, guess what shuts down quite a bit?
Yeah.
The executive functioning, learning, memory. So that's not something that we want.
Absolutely not.
But a lot of people, I think they're afraid, we say psychotropic or psychopharmacology. And
or even just the plain word
medication, right? And they're like anti-med. Like, well, isn't there something natural? Well, guess what, folks? I actually have a product that I put together. It's called Calm Dogs. But guess what? The FDA does not regulate this.
Yeah.
It's unregulated. All supplements are unregulated. Now, who are you going to trust as to what they have in there? A lot of people don't realize is that, hey, your medication might be a whole lot safer than a supplement out there.
Sometimes it really can be.
Because at least the medications are FDA approved. Okay.
Yeah.
But when we talk about severe, I mean, really severe, they're hurting themselves.
Yeah.
They're hurting their owners. They're hurting other people. They're so scared that they constantly are drooling, their tails tucked, they're trembling. That's their typical state.
Yeah.
They're suffering.
Absolutely,
they are suffering.
Absolutely.
We don't want them to suffer.
It's not fair to them. It's not fair to them at all. So we actually have quite a few questions.
All right, so let's go into some more questions.
Absolutely. So we have Terry. Terry she asked, how do I stop my dog from chasing vehicles? This is a good one. So the first thing that you're going to need to do is you need to teach your dog how to loosely walk on the leash. I want you to get in the habit of whenever your dog is passing you, if their head passes your leg, your job is to turn around and go the other way. If your dog wants to go north, you go south. Your dog wants to go east, you go west. Your dog wants to slow down, you speed up. Your dog wants to speed up, you turn around. This is going to start teaching your dog to take cues off of you. It's important that whenever your dog is doing the right thing, you are rewarding and praising your dog. High praise, high reward. Whenever they're doing something right. What I tell my clients is, at no point should you be getting quiet. You should be making noise, whether it is praising your dog, marking good behavior, or saying a command when you are doing loose leash walking. Those are the three things that you should be doing.
Or what I like to say is just keeping them engaged.
Exactly.
Because here's the thing. Distractions, that car, is a competing motivator. Your dog's more motivated to chase the car than be engaged with you.
Yeah.
So one of the things that I talk about, and I just want to say this because I don't know, and maybe you can comment again. Most dogs that like to chase cars love toys. They love to chase after a toy that you throw, typically, right? A tennis ball, something that moves fast. You might be able to get your dog's attention with a toy. You go back and forth real fast, and really get excited and get their attention, play with them, all right, engage. Here's the thing. You've got to be more interesting than anything in your environment. Okay, so that's one thing I want to talk about. The second thing is being proactive. And what I mean by being proactive is, how about you work on a really strong recall, teaching the dog to come to you when called, and then little by little have a helper start throwing in some distractions because you need a distracted recall, have the dog come. And you want to have a long line on the dog, 20, 30 foot long line, long leash, or rope or something, so that when you call your dog, if the dog doesn't come, you're able to help assist it. Anytime we give a command, we have to make sure that it happens. And most people don't train proactively enough. You need enough repetition where it becomes muscle memory. Your dog needs to learn how to come back to you when it's distracted. You got to start off with little distractions, and as time goes by, increase the level of those distractions. But here's the thing. If your dog loses focus, you've added too intense of a distraction too soon. That means your dog's over threshold. And the problem is we've got to stop your dog from rehearsing this behavior. So you've got to keep your dog out of those situations until you've proactively done the work to keep your dog engaged with you and more interested in you, and follow the guidelines that Jordan had spoken of, and then also working on that distracted recall. So those are some things that also can be done.
Absolutely. No, absolutely. We have a couple more questions. Let's see. Anne, this is a great question. I actually want to hand this one over to you. This one is, Anne says her dog is not food motivated when excited. So how do I train her?
Mm-hmm. So a lot of times when a dog won't take food, now you say excited. I'd love to see a video of that.
Yeah.
Because usually it's anxiety. Now, anxiety can look like excitement, right? And a dog can be really amped up, and you don't necessarily realize that their internal state is one that is anxious.
Yeah.
Okay, now, here's the thing. You already know in certain situations, your dog's not going to take food.
Right.
So you shouldn't be training there yet. Yet. The big 3 letters, yet. I'm not telling you to avoid them. What I'm saying is that you have to very gradually and systematically add little distractions, more and more and more at a time. Now, we also need to say to ourselves, okay, what is the location where this problem happens?
Yeah.
What is the trigger or triggers that cause that to happen? What is the actual behavior, the actions that your dog displays and goes through?
Yeah.
Okay. We need to know when that trigger is presented in that particular location where your dog gets excited. What, in terms of that particular situation, how often, like for example, let's say that trigger was presented 10 times in a row. How many times out of those 10 times does your dog act in those behaviors that we're talking about? Now, there's 2 things. We have an emotional internal state, and then we've got external behaviors that are going on. But when we talk about keeping a dog below threshold, that's where the dog doesn't have a care in the world. And if you're doing training and your dog can't stay focused on you, you have gone too soon to that level of distraction.
Absolutely.
Now, there could be other issues going on. We could be talking about generalized anxiety. Maybe a supplement would help with that if it's relatively mild.
Absolutely.
I talked about my supplement, a little plug here. Whoop, go that way. Calm Dogs. You can go to calmdogs.com or doganxiety.com. Now, that's going to help you if you've got mild, maybe moderate anxiety. But if it's severe, forget it. There's not a supplement on the market that's going to help you.
Absolutely.
But you've got to begin the process of, again, just like what I said before, you got to be more interesting than anything else in your environment. Okay?
Absolutely.
Also, fast movement dissipates stress. If you're just standing still with your dog and your dog's nervous, it's not going to happen.
Yeah.
The other thing is, you may have to find higher value food rewards.
Absolutely.
When we talk about high value food rewards, we're talking cooked chicken, cooked beef, cut up hot dogs, something of that nature.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm getting question after question after question about fireworks. Yeah. Everybody is asking about fireworks. I just want to remind everybody, we are going to start talking about the fireworks here very
7 minutes
very soon.
Or sooner. 7 minutes or sooner, because it's almost 9:30.
Exactly.
So don't go anywhere.
Yeah, don't go anywhere. We
Appreciate
are not
you hanging
avoiding your questions. We're not avoiding the topic. We're getting out of the way some of the other questions beforehand.
Because
before we get into
your questions that you have about fireworks, most likely we're going to cover it.
Yeah,
we're going to be going through in-depth information on what you need to do here in just a few minutes.
Absolutely.
Do we have any other questions besides fire? Let's do one more non-firework question.
Let's see. There are some not eating, having stress issues. Oh, wow. This is a crazy, interesting question from Ellen. Ellen says that they are helping out the pet parents of Ukraine with pets that are in the war zone. Firstly, that is a fantastic thing. Thank you for that. That is wonderful. some of them are not eating and are having severe stress issues.
Yeah.
Any suggestions?
Yeah, absolutely. So these dogs have PTSD.
Yeah, absolutely they do.
They have PTSD, okay? They've experienced trauma, and they are going to need very long-term, very in-depth behavior modification.
Absolutely.
Counter-conditioning and desensitization. But right now, there's not a whole lot you can do with them because they've got PTSD and they're in trauma.
And they're still in the war zone.
And the problem is, it's not so much what's happening in the external environment right now for your dog.
Yeah.
What it is, it's about what's going on internally,
Yeah.
okay? Because your dog is this dog is outside of Ukraine now, but any little thing that happens sets the dog off.
Absolutely. Absolutely.
This is one of these situations where medication is most likely going to need to happen along with behavior modification. You know, we talked about when they're so upset, when they're so fearful, they're so anxious that they're in fight or flight.
Yeah,
and that's
absolutely.
the older part of the brain,
Yep,
the amygdala,
exactly.
right in the middle there. And they're not using critical thinking. And we're not going to be able to do much training.
Absolutely.
There's a lot we can do. And folks,
Now-
when we're talking about these severe behaviors and the information we're giving you, this information we're providing is not a substitute for getting a professional to help you because a
Absolutely.
lot of these problems are pretty severe.
Yeah, and
most people are going to need some help.
Yeah, and now Ellen, there are a few tips and pointers that you can be giving these parents though. For example, the first thing that these dogs need is structure. They need so much structure and predictability in their lives because a few things have just happened. The first thing that we did was we exposed them to a severe trauma. That's the first thing we did. We opened up that emotional wound, okay? Now we then took them out of their environment that they are used to and we have ripped them away from home. They've probably experienced stimuli that they've never ever experienced before in their lives. They're probably in tight spaces with lots of people with high emotions, people with all of these things that they're scared, people are crying, people are loud. It's a scary situation for these dogs. So what you need to do is you need to start having these parents provide structure in that the dogs need to be able to predict when feeding times are coming. Make sure that they have something that is familiar to them, that belongs to the dog. Provide the dogs a safe area where they can go to and remove themselves from the stimuli in their environment, whether that's a little corner or a box, a nice bed in a quiet area. If they have a whole room, give the dogs access to be able to remove themselves. Right now, because these dogs, they have PTSD, they do. The first thing you need to do is just start helping these dogs feel like they can take a breath. Give them structure, give them predictability, and provide them with something that is familiar to them.
Yeah, absolutely. When it comes to fears, the biggest thing that your pets need is to predict what's going to happen.
Yeah.
Because think about it. If you could, fear is really the unknown, what's going to happen? Or is something going to happen that I experienced before that's real scary? They need predictability. The more they can predict what's going to happen, and you said it, structure, routine, super important.
Absolutely.
When you say we start talking about fireworks?
I think fireworks is a fantastic topic for us to start on.
Now, I said at the beginning of the show, Happy Independence Day, or what your pets might call the Great Escape.
The Great Escape.
The first thing we need to talk about is keeping them safe.
Yeah.
Okay. And now, folks, we're going to go into a big monologue here. We're going to talk about the process of how you're going to help your pets. If we don't cover a question that you might have in what we're going to talk about, then when we're done discussing this, please type that into the comment section or you can call. We're not going to take calls right now.
Yeah.
We're not going to answer questions right now because we're going to go into the fireworks.
Additionally, if we don't cover it today, we are going to be talking about fireworks again next week.
Absolutely.
Please email us at info, I-N-F-O, at pettalktoday.com and give us that question. If there was something specific about your situation that we did not cover, again, that is info, I-N-F-O, at pettalktoday.com. All right, so I guess we should hop right into this.
Yeah, so here's the thing. If you've got a pet that has a very high level I mean, a very high level of fear, anxiety.
Yeah.
We're talking about the dog that's panting the whole time, might be drooling, it's trembling,
Yeah.
its tail is tucked. It is a mess.
Yeah.
It is a mess. You might not be able to do the behavior modification, the counter conditioning and desensitization between now and the 4th and have your
Yeah.
dog okay.
Yeah.
We're going to talk about a couple things. In the long term, how do you get your pets over fireworks? And again, what we're going to explain, this will work for any noise phobia.
Yeah.
In the long term, we do counter conditioning and desensitization, but that's not a quick process. We're going to go through that process. We're going to talk about it. But we need to talk about if you've got a severe case, if you've got a pet that really freaks out on the 4th,
Yeah.
you need to be making an appointment with your veterinarian.
Absolutely.
You need to be talking about medication. Now,
Yeah.
we're not veterinarians.
No.
We don't give out medical advice, but with our experience, we work with a lot of dogs that have severe fears and phobias. We refer them to the veterinarian. Sometimes they get prescribed medication. There's a new medication, relatively new. It's called Sileo.
Sileo.
Spell that again.
Sileo. Sileo.
Yes. And that works really quick. It's a gel. And what you do is you just kind of insert this gel into their mouth and it absorbs very quickly in the mucous membrane. The nice thing about this medication, unlike a lot of medications, it doesn't sedate much at all.
Right.
So your dog's not a zombie.
Right.
Now listen, folks, before I did the work of counter conditioning and desensitization with my dogs over fireworks, because they had issues, I used Sileo. And all I could do is tell you that it was wonderful.
Yeah.
And the research, because I'm not just going to say what I think, because that's anecdotal, right? And those of you that watch the show know that we're evidence-based and science-based, okay? The science says that pet parents that use Sileo with pets that had extreme fears and phobias of noises, all noises, 66% of pet guardians,
2/3.
okay, said that it either worked excellent or good. Excellent, good. So Sileo, if
Yeah.
you don't have the time right now, if you can't get in between now and the 4th. Now, if you've got a pet that's relatively mild, maybe a little bit on the moderate side, you might be able to significantly bring down that fear and anxiety if you are doing the counter conditioning and desensitization, which we're going to be talking about. So that's something you don't want to miss. So make sure that you stay right here. If you're just joining us, I'm Will Bangura.
And I'm Jordan Marsteller.
And this is Pet Talk Today. And we're here each and every Saturday morning from 9 to 10 a.m. where we take your calls. We answer your questions in the comments section. So please do us a favor. Hit the like button. Hit the share button. This is a labor of love for us. We want to make sure as many pet parents find out about us so that they can get help. Because not everybody can afford private in-home training. And that's why we do this as well. But we need to get into fireworks.
Absolutely.
We talked about if it's severe, you may need to talk to your vet about medication. Now,
real quick, so we have a couple questions about the Sileo.
Okay.
Where do you
Yeah,
get it?
yeah.
So specifically,
Veterinarian.
yeah. So you're just gonna have to make an appointment with your veterinarian and get it prescribed. Let them know that you explain to them the symptoms that your dog goes through whenever they experience fireworks, and go to your veterinarian and pick that up. I know that Chewy does like an overnight delivery for Sileo for most locations.
but right now, so many vets are so busy.
Yeah.
And you need to contact them now.
Yeah, absolutely.
Do not wait. You need to contact them now. But yeah, you will need a prescription for Sileo. It is a prescription medication. That means that the only people that can write that prescription are licensed veterinarians.
Absolutely. I cannot wait until I finish vet school and I can just help my clients out that way.
It'll be nice. Yeah.
It will be. It will be.
Do we have another question? Or are we going into?
No, we're going into
All right.
into it now.
So the first thing that we said, you need to stay home.
Yeah.
We don't want your pets getting hurt. They need to have some comfort.
Yeah, and we're not saying that everybody needs to stay
No.
home. If your dogs are fine with fireworks, then you might not be the person that needs to stay home. But if you have a dog that's scared of fireworks, you need to make different plans to stay home with your dog.
Absolutely. Now, there's a few things that you can do. The first thing that I like to talk about is creating that safe haven
Yeah.
for your pet.
Absolutely.
Okay? Now, here's the thing. If we're talking about noise phobias, we want to bring the noise down.
Yeah.
The best way to bring the noise down so it's not so loud for your pets, take yourself, take your pet, go inside of a closet. The closet that has the most clothes or coats or what have you, because think about it. That's almost like a soundproof or sound dampening room.
Yeah, absolutely.
That I guarantee you, unless it's empty, the closet's going to be the quietest place in your home.
Absolutely.
Okay.
I agree.
So the other thing that we want to do is we want to drown out the sounds too. So if we've got the quietest room, the closet, and again, don't put your dog or cat in there by itself. Make sure you're in there with them.
Yeah,
okay?
yeah.
But we also want to do some sound deadening things.
Yeah.
Right.
So,
So
for
how do we
example,
do that?
Yeah. So a few things that you're going to do. Make sure that you leave the clothing inside of that closet. Add pillows in there, put blankets in there, put your dog's bed in there. Anything you can to just dampen the sound. Now, here's another thing you can do. Then I spoke about this last week. What I want you to start doing, studies show that reggae is
That's
the
right.
number one calming music for dogs. So what I want you to do is start playing a nice, good, calming reggae playlist. And while that's happening, feed, pause the music, stop feeding. Turn that music on. Feed, pause, stop feeding. I want you to start doing that now, like right now. Like I'm talking as soon as this show is over, go start.
So what
now.
we're doing is we're associating something very, very positive, high value food rewards with the reggae music.
Yeah.
And why do we do that, Jordan?
Exactly. The reason why is that's called counter conditioning. Okay. But once we have created that pairing in your dog's brain of reggae music turns on, food starts going down my throat, what happens is the moment that music plays and your dog, it's like a subconscious response. Suddenly, boom.
Well, it's a
The
conditioned
receptors,
response, right?
Exactly. And now
Pavlovian.
Yep, exactly. And now we've got receptors firing off things like serotonin and dopamine and
Absolutely. We got
endorphins,
dopamine, the feel-good neurotransmitter
they start
for pleasure.
firing off in your dog's brain just from the sound of that reggae. So now,
Exactly. But you
on
got to
that-
condition it.
yeah.
And what does that mean? That means for the next 3 or 4 days, you're going to need to press play and feed, press stop and stop feeding. You're going to need to repeat that about 30 times in a row for about 3 to 4 days in a row.
Absolutely.
Okay. And anytime you play reggae music, you are feed the whole time,
Yep.
constantly and continuously when they hear that. Once it's classically conditioned, your pet doesn't have a choice but to go into a positive state.
Exactly.
But it's got to be conditioned first. Now, you're dealing with competing motivators. We've got a motivator of something positive. We play the reggae music. It's been associated with high-value food rewards.
Right.
But we also have the competing motivator of, oh, my God, I'm scared.
I'm scared.
It's very, very loud. These fireworks are here. It's the great escape once again this year.
Yep.
So just know that even though you're doing that, until we've also done the work of counter conditioning and desensitizing just the sound of the fireworks, or any noise phobia, because this works for any noise phobia, we might not be talking about at this point having a pet that's completely okay with it. Now, for most pets, you can pretty much get there. You can only work as fast as your pet's ability to do that.
Yeah.
I'm going to talk about counter conditioning and
let's hear it. Let's do it.
we'll go back into the other things because we got a lot of important tips, but for the long term, and like I said, if you've got a pet that is mild, you might be able to get them ready for the 4th of July between now and then. So counter conditioning is pairing something positive with something that your pet views as negative. In this case, it's going to be the fear, the sound of fireworks, or any other sound, what that might be. And we need to classically condition your pet that when it hears fireworks, it thinks wonderful things are going to happen. And those wonderful things are going to be very high value food rewards. Again, what's high value? Cooked chicken, cooked beef, cut up hot dogs, whatever your pet's absolute favorite is. If you've got a kitten or a cat, it might be tuna. Okay? Whatever it loves the most, that's what you want to use. Think about it as currency. You need the highest value currency that you can have. Now, what you're going to do is you need to expose your pets to the sound of fireworks, but it's got to be at this super low volume where your pet does not have a care in the world. I mean, no care. It can hear it, but it doesn't care.
Right.
Okay. Now, you might say, well, where do I get these fireworks? Where do I get the sound?
Well, I have one solution.
Well, I'll tell you what. If you go to phoenixdogtraining.com and you go to the blog and you start scrolling down, I think it was maybe 2020, I've got an article about the 4th of July. In that article, and fireworks, in that article, I've got embedded a YouTube video that has 10 hours of fireworks sounds, okay? And in that same article, there's a podcast that we previously did on fireworks that's also in there, okay? So go to phoenixdogtraining.com, go to the blog, look for the fireworks 4th of July article, and that is going to help you because, again, 10 hours of fireworks sounds. Now, when you begin to play this for your pet, let's talk about the steps. So so here's the thing. They have it at a volume that the pet doesn't have a care in the world. Okay. What do you do now?
Now that we have it at a volume that your pet doesn't have a care in the world, just like you did with that reggae music, you're going to press play and then for about 5 to 15 seconds, feed, pause the music and then stop feeding for 5 to 15 seconds. Now, let me tell you, timing is very important. In fact, with incorrect timing here, it will not work. So, music starts, fireworks starts, thunderstorm starts, whatever the loud noises that we're using. And then 0 to half a second afterwards, feeding starts. Then feed, music, pause. 0 to a half a second after the music pauses, feeding stops.
Now, when you say feed, we're talking about constantly and continuously putting food in. That food should constantly and continuously be doled out really fast the entire time the sound of the fireworks, thunderstorms, whatever noise phobia that you're working on, the entire time that it's playing, the entire time that your pet hears it, they should be having food constantly being put in.
Absolutely.
We're, again, classical conditioning, Pavlovian conditioning, associative learning. We're pairing high-value food rewards with the sound of fireworks. But we have to start off at a volume where the pets don't have a care in the world.
Basically, you should be questioning yourself. When you press play, you should be going, is my dog, can they even actually hear it? Yes, I promise you.
Yeah, they got better hearing than you.
They can hear it.
Now, let me just say this. This is not going to work if you decide you're just going to go ahead and play these fireworks sounds over your smartphone.
No.
Okay?
No.
What happens, and eventually it's going to get loud. Yeah. And if it doesn't sound like real fireworks, if you don't have a nice stereo system, surround sound works the best.
Absolutely.
Big bass, big woofer, we need to be playing this on a Bluetooth stereo system that's really, really good so we can make it sound like the real deal.
Yeah,
now,
absolutely.
The other thing that you've got to do is you've got to put in the time and the work. So, we talked about...
Before we get into it, we actually have a relative question that just got asked.
All right, let's do that.
I believe it's from Elizabeth. Elizabeth says, what if your pet is overweight and you can't overfeed? First things first, obviously, we're always going to say we recommend that you get in contact with a veterinary nutritionist if you haven't already, and make sure that it's not something with your dog's diet that needs to be changed.
Right. But medically, we want to have the dog checked out. Make sure, because you'd be surprised how many dogs are hypothyroid and they will gain weight.
If you have a combination of phobia, fears, anxiety, aggression, and your dog is overweight,
it's possible because about 85% of dogs that have fears, significant fears, anxieties, aggression, either have a thyroid that is low or it's going to be.
Exactly. Now, what you can do though, Elizabeth, is withhold your dog's meal. Now, I'm not saying
that, so I'm glad. Use your dog's meal
exactly
to train.
Exactly. So what you're going to do, let's just say your dog receives 2 cups of kibble at each meal. What you're going to do in the morning, take those 2 cups, put them into your treat pouch. And now that is what you're going to train with, those 2 cups. Make your dog work for your food. In fact, that's going to for his food. In fact, that is going to multiply
now,
how well the
here's
training
the thing,
works.
folks. There's a term. Look it up after the show. Contra freeloading.
Yep.
Contra freeloading. Big fancy word, 50-cent word. And all that means is that given the choice, if you could freely give food to a dog or if they had to work for food, they prefer to work for the food.
Absolutely.
They prefer to work for the food. Let me say that again. The dogs prefer to work for the food.
They will literally choose the food that they have to work for.
Contra freeloading.
Yep.
Okay? So those of you that might be opposed to that, listen, your dog would prefer it.
Yeah.
Okay? Your dog would prefer that. And that's what you're going to have to do. I mean, if your dog is heavy, we don't want to put more weight on your dog. But again, you need to get your dog to the veterinarian and rule out that there's any medical issues.
Absolutely. Okay? Absolutely.
Now, Jordan, when we were talking about pressing play at the low volume where the pet doesn't have a care in the world and you feed constantly and continuously, and you said to do that for how long?
I say approximately 5 to 15 seconds of feeding and then 5 to 15 seconds of no feeding, and you will repeat this process for approximately, get this, 5 to 15 minutes, and that is going to be one session.
Let me make sure this is really clear.
Yeah.
So a training session of counter conditioning and desensitization with fireworks or any sound phobia, that session's going to run anywhere between 5 and 15 minutes long.
Right.
And during that 5 to 15 minutes, they're going to be playing the sounds.
Yep.
As soon as they press play, they feed constantly and continuously. And then you're going to press stop.
Yep. After about 5 to 15 seconds
playing
of playing
and
the music feeding.
You're going to press stop. And as soon as it stops the sound, they stop feeding.
Yep.
And they're going to wait again
5 to 15
seconds, and then they press play again.
Exactly.
And they're going to do that over and over and over for 5 to 15 minutes.
Exactly. And now here's a big part as well.
Yeah.
Every 5, here we go, it's a magic number here. Every 5 to 15 repetitions, you are then going to get your dog moving. Lots of fast movement, back, forth. Lots of fun, explosion of energy. The reason why we're doing this, Will, is because it dissipates stress.
Exactly. Fast movement dissipates stress. Why? Oxygen goes to the brain.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's like,
here's a question for the cat behaviors though, but it is actually relative.
Yeah.
Elizabeth, who asked the nutrition question, she also wants to know, does this work the same with cats?
This works the same with any mammal. Humans are mammals. We do the same thing with humans.
Absolutely.
We're not giving them the treats. We give them something else.
So now again, 5 to 15 minutes. Now the question is, how many times do I have to do this and how often? Well, let me tell you. Minimum, if you want to see change, once, or
3 to 5 times a week.
5 times a week.
Right?
I don't know what I was about to say.
3 to 5 times a week. That's minimum.
Yeah.
Now, you can do it every day. You can do it multiple times a day. The more you do it, the quicker it's going to go. But remember, you've got to keep your pet below threshold.
Absolutely.
If your pet is even the slightest bit concerned when it's hearing the sound, you've gone up too high too soon. Now, what we're trying to do, folks, is we're teaching your pet a game. That's what I want you to think about. Forget about their fears right now. We're teaching a game. And the game is, hey, when you hear the sound of fireworks or whatever the sound phobia is that you're playing, wonderful things are going to happen.
Yeah.
You're going to get high value food rewards. And we're going to classically condition it over and over and over so that it becomes an automatic response.
Precisely.
And at some point, as you're doing this 3 to 5 times a week, you're going to notice at some point when you press play and the sound of fireworks starts, boom, your pet's going to look at you like, hey, where's my food? Where's my food? When you can identify they understand the game, that's when you get to turn it up a little bit.
Exactly. Everybody thinks that the goal here is to get the volume as loud as possible, as quick as possible. That is not the case. In fact, getting the volume loud, that will come. That's not your goal.
It'll come.
Will come.
It will come if you do it right.
Exactly. Your goal is teaching the game. When you press play, your dog should go, where's my food? Where's my food? Where's my food, Mom? Where's my food?
And
Where's
it
my food,
won't
Dad?
happen if your pet has even the slightest concern when it hears that. Because a lot of people will say to me, Jordan,
Yeah.
they'll say, well, if my dog's not concerned, how could I be doing any work?
Exactly.
Well, think about it. We want to classically condition something really good, high value food
Yeah.
rewards with the sound of fireworks. And we want the dog to be in a good state.
Yeah.
If the dog or the cat is in a state of fear, even
Yeah.
slightly, that's what we're reinforcing.
Absolutely.
We can't do that. So once the pet understands the game, we can go up a little bit. And then we start that process
Yep.
all over again, right?
Absolutely.
Again, 3 to 5 times a week,
5
minimum,
to 15 minutes.
for each training session.
5 to 15 seconds on and off of the feeding, and every 5 to 15 times, give your dog some fast movement.
Now, little by little, very gradually, systematically, you're going to go up on the volume.
Yep.
Be conservative. Don't be in a
Yes.
hurry.
Everybody does it. Trainers do it. I do it. Will does it. We all do it. We are all greedy. It's the human
Exactly. We're
condition.
greedy. We get a little bit of success.
Yeah.
We're like, more.
Exactly. And what happens is it happens all the time. I call Will, and let me tell you, every time that I have this conversation with him, I know that he's saying in his head, this young trainer over here still getting greedy. I know it. I see the look on his face every time. And I don't think it's a look of, like disappointment. I actually think it's a look of like, man, I remember when
Exactly. I don't remember when I did that. Yeah.
So
exactly.
I do it all the time. I'll call Will up. I'm like, man,
Slow
I've
and
been doing
steady
so good with this
wins the
dog.
race.
Yeah. And then I'm like, and he's like, well, what happened? I'm like, well, I got a little greedy. And then that's when the bite happens. That's when the dog suddenly goes crazy. Things like that because
They go over threshold.
you push the dog too far, too fast. And what happens when we do that? Let's talk about that. I think that's very important to know.
Well, it's going to set
It
the
sets you
dog
back.
back. And what you've done is now you have created that fear again
Yeah.
in that context. So now the pet can start to fear doing the work.
Absolutely.
And the session, the training
Absolutely.
session, the counter conditioning and desensitization session, it begins to fear. So again, you're going up very gradually, very, very slowly.
Yeah.
Also, folks, we have an article on counter conditioning and desensitization. It goes through the various steps. You can go to phoenixdogtraining.com and you can go to our blog and just scroll through the articles and look for the one on counter conditioning and desensitization. It's near the bottom.
Yeah.
It's near the bottom, okay? That's going to also help you. Now, if you've got some severe, if you've got a pet with very severe fears and phobias,
Yeah.
like I said, you might need medication along with this, and you might need to hire a professional, okay? This is not a substitute for that. All right. This is just to help supplement that and give you some information.
Yeah.
Some of you are going to be able to do this on your own and you're going to have great success. If you're trying it, you're not having success, make sure you contact a professional because this works.
We do have a couple very good questions.
Okay.
First, the question is, where do I get calm dogs? I think that's a good question.
So you can either go to calmdogs.com or you can go to doganxiety.com.
Exactly.
It comes with a 100% money back guarantee. About 70, 80% of dogs will have a certain level of decrease in anxiety within 30 minutes to 60 minutes.
Yeah.
However, what we found is that and that was about 70, 80% of dogs.
Yeah.
But 98% of dogs, when taken twice daily for 6 weeks, they had a significant reduction of anxiety. Now, again, if it's super severe, there's not a supplement in the world that's going to really help.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
If it's mild to moderate, the supplement will help. And trust me, everything that's in there is based on science.
Yeah.
I spent over 5 years developing that formula to make sure that it wasn't snake oil, because there's a lot of snake oil out there.
There is. The next question is, where in phoenixdogtraining.com do I find the loud noises? So again,
It's in the article.
Yep.
So you go to the blog, you tell them.
Exactly. Go to phoenixdogtraining.com, and then in the menu up top, you're literally going to click blog. go to the blog, and you're going to scroll down. I think it was back in 2020 to the fireworks article. It's going to be, I can't remember what its title
Could have been 2021. I don't know.
And you're going to look up the fireworks article in the blog. Embedded, probably, I think it's at the bottom of the blog post.
Close to
near
the bottom. Close to the bottom.
Is a video with our 10 hours of fireworks. And read the blog as
Now,
well.
the first 18 minutes or so, I talked about this process, but for some reason it got messed up.
Okay.
So at 18 minutes on the video is when the fireworks sounds start.
Yeah. And then our next question is, what do you do for an arthritic senior dog regarding the fast movement, Will?
Well, you might not be able to move fast.
you might not be able to.
You might not be able to do that. And so everything that we talk about, you got to take into context.
Yeah.
Okay. And you've got to weigh the risks and the benefits also. Okay. If your pet's pain gets worse and exacerbates itself, then what's going to happen is your mood, your fear is going to get worse too.
Yeah.
So probably we don't want to do that.
And
But what other, well, let me just say this. What other things can you get your dog excited about? Does it love a ball? Does it love a toy? We talked about high value food rewards. Okay. Does it love your excitable praise? And pets are like, oh, what a good dog, what a good dog, what a... My dogs go crazy when we do that, right? And that's a happy thing for them.
Anything to really dissipate that stress, to get their mind off of it. Now, the reason why we add in that fast movement, there's two reasons. Well, two reasons that I'm going to cover. The first one is because if we are accidentally keeping our dog at threshold because maybe they're giving such small signals we really can't pick up on it, it's going to help bust through that little bit of stress that started to build up.
Now, you use the word threshold.
Yeah.
Threshold, when a dog's at threshold, okay, they have a concern.
Yeah.
We don't want them at threshold.
Exactly.
We want them below threshold. And we keep them below threshold little by little. We can raise the volume.
Yep.
But they got to be below threshold.
Exactly.
They can't have a care in the world.
Exactly.
Otherwise, we're conditioning an emotional state of fear and anxiety. We want to pair not having a care in the world with the sound of fireworks and high value food reward, something really, really, really good.
Right, exactly. And then the second reason why we're doing this fast movement is so that your dog learns, oh man, if I just deal with this for like 5 to 10-ish, whatever times for a couple minutes, suddenly mom just goes crazy or dad goes crazy and we get to have lots of fun. So it's another item for your dog to look forward to throughout the training. That way the training doesn't become so daunting on your dogs.
Just so all of you know, typically we're here from 9 to 10. We may go over.
Yeah.
Jordan may have to leave, but I will continue to talk about fireworks because we want to get this done.
Absolutely.
And we're going to talk more about it next week.
Yeah.
You know, we might be repeating a bunch of things, but not everybody's seeing it today. Hey, if you like what we're doing, please click the like button and please click the share button and share this so that more people can benefit from this as well. So we talked about the counter conditioning and the desensitization. Now, there's another way that you can help your pet.
Really?
There is. It's a little bit different than counter conditioning because you're not counter conditioning, but you are desensitizing.
Right.
Remember, we've got that 10 hours of fireworks sound. If you play that well below threshold, but they can still hear it, and you press play, you could go about doing your business for 1 hour, 2 hours, 8 hours, 10 hours, doesn't matter. You know, I had a friend of mine that bought a house over a flight line.
Yeah.
And I went over to the house. I go, how the hell do you deal with this? You know, it's like the house is almost like shaking and stuff. And like, really, we really don't even notice. We don't even hear it because it happened over and over and over and over, and that became background noise.
Yeah.
So you can play it at an extremely low volume, again, well below threshold for your pets, and you could play that all day long. And little by little, you turn it up. Now, I recommend you do the counter conditioning and desensitization.
Yeah.
And doing that desensitization.
Absolutely.
It'll go quicker if you do that.
Yeah.
The downside to leaving and just doing the desensitization, what if in that process, all of a sudden your pet gets a little nervous? So I say it's better to do that when you're home.
Absolutely.
And let that low volume noise like as if it's white noise.
And now to answer that, the website again for you, Sonia, is phoenixdogtraining.com, and you go to the blog. And then if you are looking for the calm dogs, that is calmdogs.com. or doganxiety.com.
And again, for the 10 hours of fireworks sounds, you'll go to phoenixdogtraining.com, go to the blog, look for the article on fireworks on the 4th of July. The 10 hours of sound effects is a YouTube video that is embedded in that particular article.
Absolutely. So we've talked about the counter conditioning. We've talked about the desensitization. We talked about the music. We talked about creating a safe haven for your dog. Let's talk about ways that we can preemptively prepare our dogs for that evening. So the first thing that you're going to do is I want you to spend that day just lots and lots of fun, fast movement, exercise, run your dog, lots of fetch. Now, here's the thing. If your dog is not used to being exercised all the time, I am not telling you, especially if you live here in the valley. I know that we have viewers all over the place, but especially if you live somewhere where it's really hot, I don't want you to take today as your opportunity or that day as your opportunity to go out and run your dog for hours, okay?
But the idea is, okay, let's say that before the sun goes down and the fireworks start, you exercise the heck out of your dog.
Absolutely.
If your dog can handle that.
Exactly.
If your dog doesn't have physical ailments like the gal that had the arthritis, the dog with the arthritic dog.
Yeah.
But you want to exercise the heck out of them because that's going to help calm them. It also is going to produce feel-good hormones, endorphins. And guess what? Serotonin goes up when you exercise as well.
Yep. Exercise releases such an extreme amount of endorphins, and endorphins, that's that feeling like if anybody here's ever jumped out of an airplane or done anything really amazing and crazy, endorphins and norepinephrine starts firing off in your brain, and that adrenaline starts producing, and you get that tingly sensation in your skin, and you're just like this feels good. And so your dog is just going to be feeling really fantastic.
And the other thing is it helps them just to be calmer as well. Now, one of the things that I also recommend, okay, before the fireworks come.
Yeah.
Now, I had somebody ask a question with this, okay, because we were talking about, feed.
Yeah.
Now, we're hoping that the work gets done and you're not having a fearful dog.
Right.
But you might not have enough time to get there. It may take longer. None of it's difficult. The counter conditioning and desensitization, it's just time consuming. It's inconvenient. But when you are, working with your dog, I talk about, when the 4th of July comes about, I talk about, hey, after the sun goes down, feed a really big meal.
Yeah.
And I talk about, hey, cooked turkey. Why? Tryptophan. Remember?
Yeah.
Thanksgiving, you eat all that turkey, and all of a sudden you get tired.
Everybody's like, "Oh, time to undo the
take
belt
a nap
and just crash out on the."
But somebody said, if I do that, then my pet's not going to be hungry to feed. The feed is a proactive thing that you're doing. Not when it's the 4th of July. Right. This is a proactive exercise that you're doing with the sound of fireworks that you're playing over a Bluetooth big stereo system, very gradually and slowly bringing the volume up and associating the sounds with high-value food rewards.
Absolutely.
Okay, so that's the thing. If you're not there yet, well, chances are, if your pet's really scared, they're not going to be taking food.
Yeah.
Right?
Absolutely.
So we want to feed a big meal. I suggest that you do that with turkey. Okay.
Yeah, absolutely. So now that we've exercised our dog, fed him a big meal, what we are doing now is how about we try to massage their nerves away.
My dogs love massage.
My goodness. Let me tell you, there is this fantastic thing that's just going to help your dog and their entire body relax.
Get online. Everything's on Google.
Yeah.
Okay. Get online. Look for canine massage.
Absolutely.
On YouTube. That's what I meant. Everything's on YouTube.
Yeah.
Look for canine massage and begin that process.
Yeah.
Okay. One of the things that pets love, dogs, cats, is what we call rib raking.
Yeah.
Taking 3 fingers like that and on their side where their ribs are, just trying to get my fingers in here in the screen, just kind of go over, just kind of rub those ribs. You feel your fingers going across the ribs.
And then another thing you can do, you take your thumb and your forefinger and you put it onto both sides of your dog's spine.
Lightly,
And you're
lightly.
This is lightly. You will pull backwards and then push down and forward. And you'll watch as all of the muscles in their ribs contract upwards and then release.
Exactly.
And you do that all along the spine, all the way from the neck to the tip of, or not the tip, to the base of the tail.
And you want to do, your movement should be slow. Fast
and
movements
light.
are anxious movements. Slow, calm, steady movements. Okay.
Exactly. So now that we've massaged our dog, we've fed him a big meal, we've exercised our dog. How about we also try cuddling our dog? Now it's interesting. It's interesting when it comes to the cuddling. A lot of people may assume, but Will, Jordan, you guys always talk about not reinforcing these behaviors through cuddling. And you're absolutely right. We talk about that a lot because we accidentally
Even though we might
negatively
say coddling rather than
exactly,
cuddling.
right? We accidentally negatively reinforce. Now, that doesn't mean it's a bad thing. In this instance, it's bad. But we negatively reinforce bad behaviors by accident all the time. Negative reinforcement means to take something away.
Thus, the negative is a minus sign.
Exactly. Taking something away in order to strengthen a behavior, increase the likelihood. So, for example, my dog is barking at someone. They're saying, get away, get away, get away, get away, get away. And then I take my dog away from that situation. I've just removed the aversive and negatively reinforced the bark.
Because that behavior becomes functional.
Exactly.
The dog wanted that to go away.
Exactly. And you just help
That's why
them.
it barked.
So how do we avoid negative reinforcement in this instance?
When we want to cuddle our pets.
Exactly. You need to preemptively know, all right, the fireworks are about to start. Before your dog starts shivering, heavily panting, drooling, hiding, cowering, insert symptom of fear or aggression, anxiety, whatever it is, before that starts, that's when the cuddling has to start. That way the dog is just being cuddled, releasing those endorphins, releasing that dopamine, releasing the serotonin, making your dog feel better. And that is how we avoid the negative reinforcement. The cuddling has to begin before the fear symptoms begin.
The other thing that we're going to do is we are going to, while the fireworks are going on, we're going to provide distractions.
Yep, absolutely. What
And
kind
that
of
could be with a
distractions?
toy.
Yeah.
Right? It could be excitable praise. It could be doing obedience training. It could be doing some kind of an enrichment game. There's a lot of different things that we can do to distract them. Now, you talked about, hey, if you're in that closet, which is the quietest room in the house, which is where if you got a dog that's really fearful, we want to go with the dog there. And you talked about, playing the reggae music because science says dogs prefer reggae. I don't know about the cats, but the dogs prefer the reggae. Okay. I think the cats like Henry Mancini, the Pink Panther. But the thing is, you want to do something to distract them, and there's a lot of different things that you can do to distract them. Now, the other thing is, if you're not in the closet, if you're out and about and the fireworks are going and those flashes of light are coming into the house, that can scare your pet too.
Yeah.
So you want to go ahead and block the window and to remove that visual stimuli because that is also part of what gets them fearful for some dogs. We talked about that. We talked about drowning out the sound. We talked about providing a distraction. Let's talk about some really important things. Take a current photo.
Oh my goodness.
Take a current photo of your pet. Your pet might run away.
Photos of your dog from the front,
and
the
your
side,
cat.
the rear, photos of your dog up close, far away, because if you can post these different pictures of your dog, sometimes somebody's going to be driving down the road and they get that glimpse from the side. They're like, oh my gosh, I saw that dog online this morning. And then do yourselves a favor. We are not affiliated, but let me tell you something. My dog ran away. Okay, my dog ran away a couple months ago. Somebody left my gate open and my dog got out. And I posted pictures of him on the neighborhood app. It was
Next door?
Nextdoor. Nextdoor is what it's called.
Works good.
And I found my dog within 6 hours, not even 6 hours from the moment that I realized he was missing. I think it was actually more like 4.5 hours later. My dog was back in my arms because I started following a trail of people that had cited my dog based off of what I had been posting.
Now, here's the thing. shame on you.
Yeah.
Make sure your pet has a collar on. And make sure there's an ID tag. That's why I say shame on you, because obviously there was no ID tag.
No. Well, actually, here's the thing. It was Bear Coon, and Bear Coon does not let other people get near him.
Oh, so he had an ID tag. They couldn't get near him?
They couldn't get near him because he's
then
not,
then I take that back.
Yeah.
Shame be gone. Okay. Absolutely. Shame be gone. You don't need to worry about it.
Yeah. Every one of them, they said, they were like, he seems so friendly, but he wouldn't let me get close. And I was like, yep, that's typical Bear Coon. That's typical Bear. But no, seriously, guys, I'm telling you, download that Nextdoor app. Use your Facebook groups. Join any groups on Facebook that are your community groups. People love to help each other. I'm telling you, if they were.
I knew I had a shame on you somewhere.
If they were in your situation, they'd want somebody to help. So get those pictures taken.
Yeah. And make sure you've got an ID tag on your pet, because a lot of people might be able to come up to your pet, and that's a great way for them to identify where they need to call you and get your pet back to you. The other thing, microchips.
Microchips are, because let me tell you, it is the first thing that happens. If your dog gets picked up by the animal shelter, if your dog gets picked up by a veterinarian, if your dog gets picked up by a random person that brings in strays, there's a lot of people that have the microchip scanners at their homes. Believe it or not, I did not realize that, but a lot of people have them. Microchip your dogs. It is very inexpensive. It is a minimally invasive procedure. There is physically no recovery time besides the area of insertion may be sore for a few days, and that's it.
You know, some people have been asking about, well, besides Calm Dogs, are there other supplements that might help?
Yeah.
You have to try them. Most of our clients they report that they don't work, including CBD. Now, I've had one client tell me CBD worked really well.
Yeah.
And I've had hundreds, if not thousands, that said it did nothing for anxiety.
Nothing at all. In fact, I've had people say that it made it worse. I've had a few people say that
the problem is, and this is kind of crazy, pet parents, they fall prey to the placebo effect.
Absolutely they do.
And guess what? When you yourself are taking medication, you fall prey to the placebo effect anywhere between about 30 to 54%. When you give your pet something, you, the pet guardian, the pet parent, fall for the placebo effect up to 74%, even
that
more.
That is crazy.
Because you want your pet to be better.
Absolutely.
That's what you're looking
and so
for.
you're going to see things where you're like, actually, I do think they're doing
But
better.
let me talk about a couple things really quick, and then we can wrap up.
Yeah,
okay?
absolutely.
And then we can get you out of here too, and we're not keeping the folks too long. Aromatherapy. The only thing that I know that might be a little decent would be lavender.
Yeah.
Okay? Dog appeasing pheromone. Some call it, the brand name is Comfort Zone. That might help a little bit. Okay, doing that. What else was it that I had? Oh, Thundershirt. There's going to be a small population of pets that the Thundershirt might help. So that's another thing that you could potentially use as well. Can you think of anything else?
No, I mean, honestly, at the end of the day, the only other things that I could think of is don't forget about those distractions when you're in that closet with your dog. Mentally distract your dog. Give them games. Give them toys. If your dog likes toys and has a high prey drive, make sure you got them chasing something around and having fun. Lots of fast movement. Be prepared. Follow these steps. Keep your dogs safe this 4th of July.
Yeah, make sure that you go slow with the counter conditioning and desensitization. And please, folks, hit that like button if you like what we do. Hit the share button so more people can benefit from this. We're here each and every Saturday morning from 9 to 10 a.m. That's Mountain Standard Time. Yeah. Right now, we also share Pacific time, but Arizona does not do daylight savings time.
Absolutely not. We've got plenty of daylight. We don't need to save it around here.
Yeah, we got lots of sun. Yeah. But it's been a great show. I appreciate everybody that submitted questions. They were some really, really good questions. We're going to be talking more next week about fireworks. We might be repeating a bunch of things, but this is a huge, huge, huge issue. Do us a favor, share this video to your timeline. Like we said, not everybody can afford professional dog training. A lot of people don't know this information. Maybe it's common sense for you, but a lot of people don't know that. So please share that with them. And well, I think it's time for us to say goodbye.
Yeah, I agree. I completely agree. It has been a fantastic show. And guys, I just want to end this by saying, don't feel like you are alone. There are so many pet parents out there that are experiencing the same problems, if not worse than what you have. We work every day with the worst of the worst. And I'm telling you guys, everybody has hope.
Yeah. So work hard, train. Make sure that you're putting in enough time, and we'll see you, everybody, next Saturday. For Pet Talk Today. We're out of here.
That's all, folks.